Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I was already introduced. My name is Ratan Kaur. And Bhai Karam Singh Holland has asked me to share my story about how I came into Sikhi. I was not born in a Sikh family. I grew up in Holland, and my family was a blend of religions and a blend of different countries. My father came from the Middle East, Kuwait. My mother came from Indonesia, Bandar Aceh, Sumatra. While there was a war, the Second World War was waging here in the West. People often forget that over there, all the way in the Dutch colony, Indonesia, was also a war, and that the Japanese had taken over control of whole Indonesia, and they wanted to make it, they wanted to dominate there. So the Indonesians and the Dutch people who lived there were suppressed, oppressed. And they took many of the Indonesians and they put them in the Japanese concentration camps. And that is where my mother and her father and mother and siblings ended up, in a concentration camp without any food. Shark meat was brought to the mountains and they had to eat that raw. They had to eat insects, rats, snakes. And they were very, very, very ill. People died there. But thank Waheguru Ji, there is the British Sikh regiment who were sent to Indonesia to help them out, to send away the Japanese. And it was the Sikh regiment who actually helped my mother and her family. They rescued her while the Japanese wanted to kidnap her and all her family, put her on a cart to drive her away. They took her from the cart and said, no, we are going to protect you. You're going to stay with us. And while the soldiers, the brave soldiers of the Sikh regiment, took care of her, she, of course, didn't know what is a Sikh. She was a bit afraid, big turbans, long beards. But they started to tell her stories, the Sakhis about Guruji. They also told the story about a warrior dressed in blue with a white dari, sword in his hand and a head in his hand, and he was fighting like that. And my mother told me that story, and she didn't know his name anymore. So she called him Hantu Blau, which means in Indonesian, the blue ghost. But I can imagine that you already know who that man was. So she told me this, and I decided, okay, I was a little girl when she told me the story about the man with the head in his hand and the sword. And I decided, okay, Sikh regiment, I'm a little girl now and I'm gonna study this when I'm a big girl. And at the same time, I was watching the Dutch broadcast, the news. It was 1978. And there was news on the Amritsar massacre. And can you imagine just a little girl watching the news, hearing about all the blood and the violence of peaceful people, the people that I actually thought Sikhs are knights and kings and princes. Royalty. In my childish mind, I thought that. And I was shocked. A group of people just slaughtered. My father tried to explain to me, but I remember I was very upset. I did not understand. And again, I said to myself, when I'm a big girl, I'm going to read about this and I'm going to learn. So, and 7 years ago, I had an accident, broke some bones, and couldn't do anything. So I decided Now I'm a big girl, and I'm gonna learn and study about who are the Sikhs. And who are those people of the Amritsar massacre. So I started to read, and you have to start somewhere, so I started with history. Who are these Sikhs? Where do they come from? Then I found out it's actual religion, it's not just a culture. And reading about that, reading about Guruji, I was amazed and I fell silent when I read about what happened to Bhai Fauja Singh and the Shaheeds. And I kept reading, and I couldn't not believe what happened. And I started crying. And I said, no, this is wrong. Those innocent people were hurt. And I could have run away, because at that moment you can decide, Sikhi is very scary. If that happens to Sikhs, you can run away. But I couldn't run away. I was too fascinated. I was inspired. Then, slowly, I came deeper into Sikhi. And I wanted to know more about the religion itself, the spirituality. So I bought a translation of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I started reading and reading and reading. And slowly I fell in love against my will, because I was in war with God. But still, how the Shaheeds gave their life and were prepared to lay down their life willingly for this good cause, it picked me up and it brought me into Sikhi, and I forgot actually about my war with God. But what really launched me into Sikhi was the combination of the story of the Shaheeds, all the suffering, and later the story of Bhai Anok Singh Ji, who was tortured in such a brutal way. Justice was still not done. And the moment that I realized what they had done to him, the torture was not over. I realized, because of the Shaheeds and by Anok Singh Ji, yes, I'm Sikh. This is how I leave it here, because I don't want to take any more time. Forgive me if I said anything to upset you. Forgive me anything that I said wrong. Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.